The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of Riverside Coffee House, creating patterns of light and shadow across the polished wooden floors. Andrew Carter sat at his usual table near the window. His daughter Grace perched beside him in her pink sweater and braided pigtails. At 56, Andrew had learned to savor these Saturday mornings, 2 hours before the business world could intrude. Just him and his 7-year-old daughter, sharing hot chocolate and conversation. Grace was telling him an elaborate story about her friend Emma's new puppy when Andrew noticed the commotion near the entrance. A woman had just walked in, moving carefully on crutches. She wore a striking red dress that seemed almost defiant in its elegance, and her light brown hair was pulled back in a ponytail. Even from across the room, Andrew could see the prosthetic leg, black and mechanical, that extended from beneath her dress. She was perhaps in her late 30s, and despite the obvious difficulty of maneuvering with crutches while carrying a purse, she held her head high. But Andrew, who'd spent decades reading people in boardrooms, could see the exhaustion behind her composed expression. This was someone holding herself together through sheer determination. The coffee shop was crowded with the usual Saturday morning rush. The woman looked around for an empty seat, her eyes scanning the packed tables with growing disappointment. Most people seemed to be deliberately not making eye contact. That peculiar social behavior, where everyone becomes suddenly fascinated with their phones or companions to avoid acknowledging someone who might need help. Grace had stopped talking and was watching the woman too. Andrew had raised his daughter to notice people, to see beyond the surface. It was one of the things his late wife, Margaret, had taught them both before the cancer had taken her 4 years ago. "Daddy," Grace whispered, tugging on his sleeve. "That lady looks tired." "She does," Andrew agreed quietly. They watched as the woman finally made it to the counter and ordered. When she turned around with her coffee, the situation became even clearer. There was simply nowhere to sit. Every table was full, and the few people sitting alone had spread their belongings across empty chairs in that universal sign of, "This seat is taken." Andrew saw the moment the woman's composure began to crack. Her shoulders sagged slightly, and she looked down at her coffee as if trying to decide whether it was worth the struggle to stand and drink it or whether she should just leave. He stood up before he'd consciously decided to do it. "Excuse me," he called out, catching her attention. "Would you like to sit here? We have an extra chair." The woman looked at him, surprise and relief warring on her face. She glanced at Grace, then back at Andrew, as if trying to assess whether this was genuine kindness or something else. "I don't want to intrude," she said, her voice soft but clear even across the busy coffee shop. "You're not intruding," Andrew said. "Please, we'd be happy to share the table." She made her way over slowly, and Andrew resisted the urge to help. His sister had taught him that. She'd lost her arm in an accident years ago and had firmly instructed him that disabled people weren't automatically helpless and that sometimes the best help was simply not making a big deal out of things. When the woman reached the table, she leaned her crutches against the wall and carefully lowered herself into the chair. For just a moment, Andrew saw the pain flash across her face, the kind of pain that comes from physical exertion, when your body is working harder than it should have to. "Thank you," she said, genuine gratitude in her eyes. "Really, thank you." "I'm Andrew," he said. "This is my daughter, Grace." "I'm Claire," the woman said. She smiled at Grace. "That's a beautiful braid you have. I used to wear my hair like that when I was your age." Grace beamed. "Daddy did it. He's getting really good." At first they were all bumpy and weird. Claire laughed, a real unexpected laugh that lit up her face. "I bet he is getting good. Practice makes perfect." "That's what Daddy says about everything," Grace said. "He says you have to practice being brave too." Claire's smile faltered slightly, and Andrew saw something vulnerable flash across her expression. "Your daddy is a very smart man." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, each tending to their drinks. Andrew could sense that Claire was someone who valued privacy, who wouldn't want to be asked intrusive questions. But Grace, with a child's natural curiosity and lack of social filters, had other ideas. "Does your leg hurt?" she asked, pointing at the prosthetic. "Grace," Andrew said gently, "remember what we talked about? Sometimes questions can be private." "It's okay," Claire said, though Andrew could see the slight tension in her shoulders. "It's natural to be curious." She looked at Grace. "Sometimes it hurts, yes. But mostly it's just different. I'm still learning how to use it properly. It's only been 6 months. What happened? Grace asked. Grace, Andrew started. It's really okay, Claire said, and her smile seemed genuine. I was in an accident. A car accident. The doctors did everything they could, but in the end, they had to remove my leg below the knee. But you know what? I'm lucky. I'm alive. I can still do most things I could do before. It just takes a little longer now. My mommy died, Grace said with the blunt honesty of children. So I think you're lucky too. Because you're still here. Andrew saw Claire's eyes fill with tears. She blinked them back quickly. I'm so sorry about your mommy. That must be very hard. It is, Grace said matter-of-factly. But Daddy says we have to keep going because that's what Mommy would want. That we have to find the good things even when things are sad. Your daddy is right, Claire said softly. That's exactly what we have to do. Andrew caught Claire's eye and saw understanding there. The recognition of shared grief, of knowing what it meant to keep moving forward when part of you wanted to simply stop. So you're practicing being brave too? Grace asked. Claire nodded. Every day. Some days are easier than others. Is today a hard day? Today started as a hard day, Claire admitted. She looked around the coffee shop. I've been avoiding going out, avoiding being around people. It's been 6 months, but this is the first time I've really tried to be normal again, to go somewhere public, dressed like I used to dress, not trying to hide. You look beautiful, Grace said with the simple sincerity only children possess. That dress is so pretty. Claire's hand went to the red fabric, smoothing it self-consciously. Thank you, sweetheart. I wasn't sure if it was too much. If people would think I was trying too hard or being inappropriate somehow. Too much for what? Andrew found himself asking. For someone like me, Claire said quietly. For someone who's incomplete. You're not incomplete, Andrew said firmly. You're different than you were 6 months ago. But you're not less. Claire looked at him for a long moment. Do you really believe that? Or are you just being kind? Andrew thought about how to answer. He could feel Grace watching him, knowing his daughter would remember this conversation, would learn from how he navigated it. I believe that we are more than our physical bodies, he said carefully. I believe that what makes someone complete or incomplete, beautiful or not, has very little to do with how many limbs they have. My wife, before she died, lost her hair from chemotherapy. She lost weight until she barely looked like herself. She was weak and in pain, but she was never more beautiful to me than in those final months, because I could see her spirit so clearly. I could see her courage, her love, her determination to make every moment count. He paused, aware that both Claire and Grace were hanging on his words. You walked in here this morning dressed beautifully, facing a crowd of people when it would have been easier to stay home. That takes courage. That takes strength. And that makes you beautiful. Not the dress, not your physical appearance, but the choice to show up for your own life even when it's hard. A tear rolled down Claire's cheek. She wiped it away quickly. I'm sorry. I don't usually cry in public. Or accept kindness from strangers. Maybe it's time to start doing both, Andrew said gently. Daddy cries sometimes, Grace offered helpfully. He tries to be quiet, but I hear him. He says it's okay to cry because it means you loved someone very much. Claire laughed through her tears. Your daughter is wonderful. She is, Andrew agreed, pulling Grace close for a quick hug. She keeps me honest. Can I ask you something? Claire said after a moment. Why did you invite me to sit here? Most people. She gestured vaguely at the crowded coffee shop. Most people look away. They don't want to see me, don't want to acknowledge the crutches or the prosthetic. It's like I make them uncomfortable, so they pretend I'm not there. Andrew considered the question. I think people are afraid. Afraid of saying the wrong thing, of staring, of making you uncomfortable. They think ignoring is kinder than acknowledging. But my wife taught me something. Important, invisibility is one of the cruelest things you can do to another person. Everyone deserves to be seen. I've felt very invisible lately, Claire admitted. Even before the accident, actually. I was married for 10 years. My husband left me 2 months after I lost my leg. He said he couldn't handle it. Couldn't deal with my situation, he said. I wasn't the woman he married anymore. Andrew felt anger flash through him. Then he was a fool who never deserved you in the first place. That's what my sister says. But some days I wonder if he was right. If I am different now. If I am less. You are different, Andrew said. Different isn't less. It's just different, and anyone who can't see your worth because of a prosthetic leg is someone with very limited vision. The other day, Claire continued, seeming to need to talk now that she'd started, I went to a job interview. I'm an architect, or I was. I've been on disability, but I'm ready to work again. I need to work again for my sanity, if nothing else. But the interview, the man couldn't stop staring at my leg. Every answer I gave, every example of my work I showed him, he kept looking down. Like he was trying to figure out if someone with one leg could possibly be competent at their job. Did you get the position? Andrew asked. They said they'd call. They haven't. Claire's smile was bitter. I have 15 years of experience, awards, a portfolio of buildings I've designed, but none of that matters because all they can see is what I'm missing. Andrew pulled out his wallet and extracted a business card. He handed it to Claire. She looked at it, then back at him with wide eyes. You're Andrew Carter, Carter Development Corporation. Guilty, Andrew said with a slight smile. I've heard of you. Everyone in architecture has heard of you. You've built half the skyline of this city. My company has, yes. Claire looked stunned. I thought you looked familiar, but I figured I was imagining things. Why didn't you say something? Because it didn't matter. You needed a place to sit. I had an empty chair. Everything else is just details. I just told the CEO of one of the biggest development companies in the state that I couldn't get a job. Claire said, laughing despite herself. This is mortifying. Don't be embarrassed, Andrew said. Here's what I know. I'm always looking for talented architects. Good ones are hard to find. If you're interested, send your portfolio to the email on that card. My head of architecture, Patricia Chen, will review it. If your work is as good as you say it is, we'll find a place for you. You don't have to do that, Claire said. I don't want charity. It's not charity, Andrew said firmly. I don't do charity in business. I do smart hiring. And if you're talented, then hiring you would be smart business. The fact that you happen to have a prosthetic leg is irrelevant to your ability to design buildings. But what if... Send the portfolio, Andrew interrupted gently. Let the work speak for itself. Then we'll talk. Claire looked down at the business card, then back at Andrew. Why are you doing this? Because 6 months ago you survived something that could have killed you. You survived and you're here, having coffee, wearing a red dress, trying to live your life. That tells me you're resilient. Resilient people make good employees. They don't give up when things get difficult. He paused, then added, and because I believe what I told you earlier, you're not less because of what happened to you. You're just different, and different perspectives, different experiences make companies stronger, make the world more interesting. Grace tugged on Andrew's sleeve. Daddy, I like Claire. Can she be our friend? Andrew looked at his daughter, then at Claire. What do you say? Want to be friends with a 7-year-old and her father? Claire laughed, a genuine sound of joy that transformed her face. You know what? Yes, I would. They spent the next hour talking. Claire told them about her architecture work, about the buildings she'd designed, about the accident that had changed everything. Andrew and Grace told her about their Saturday morning ritual, about Margaret, about the foundation Andrew had started in his wife's name, to help families dealing with cancer. Grace showed Claire pictures on Andrew's phone of the treehouse. He'd built in their backyard something he'd never been able to do when Margaret was alive because he'd been too busy building other people's buildings. You really built that yourself? Claire asked, impressed. With a lot of help from YouTube videos and Grace's supervision, Andrew admitted. Turns out I'd forgotten what it's like to build something with my own hands, instead of just signing off on other people's designs. It's beautiful, Claire said. Simple but elegant. Good proportions. High praise from an architect, Andrew said with a smile. As the morning stretched into afternoon, other customers came and went, but their table remained an island of conversation and connection. Andrew found himself telling Claire things he hadn't talked about in years. His fears when Margaret got sick, his struggles to be both mother and father to Grace, his realization that all the money and success he'd accumulated meant nothing compared to the simple joy of braiding his daughter's hair on Saturday mornings. Claire shared her own journey, the moment she'd woken up in the hospital and realized her leg was gone, the despair that had followed, the slow climb back to wanting to live again. She told them about her physical therapy, About learning to walk again. About the small victories that others took for granted. The first time I made it up a flight of stairs by myself. I cried for an hour, she said. My therapist found me sitting on the top step sobbing. But they were happy tears. Because I'd done it. I'd proven that I could still do hard things. That's brave, Grace said. That's what practicing brave looks like. You're right, Claire said, smiling at the little girl. That's exactly what it is. Eventually, Andrew glanced at his watch and realized with surprise that 3 hours had passed. We should probably go. I promised Grace we'd go to the bookstore. I don't want to leave, Grace said. I like talking to Claire. I like talking to you too, Claire said. But your dad's right. You should go enjoy your Saturday. Will we see you again? Grace asked. Claire looked at Andrew, a question in her eyes. Same time next Saturday? Andrew suggested. If you'd like. I'd like that very much, Claire said. As they gathered their things, Claire reached out and caught Andrew's hand. Thank you, she said quietly. Not just for the job opportunity. Thank you for seeing me, for treating me like a person instead of a disability. You have no idea what that means. I think I do, Andrew said. My wife. Toward the end, she hated how people would talk to me instead of her, as if she'd lost her mind along with her strength. As if she'd become invisible. She taught me that the greatest gift we can give another person is to truly see them. All of them. Not just the easy parts. Claire nodded, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Your wife was a wise woman. She was, Andrew agreed. And I think she'd like you. Over the following weeks, Saturday morning coffee became a ritual for the three of them. Claire sent her portfolio to Patricia Chen, and within a week had a job offer. Not a junior position, not a token hire, a senior architect role with a salary that matched her experience. Patricia says your hospital design was the best she's seen in a decade, Andrew told Claire one Saturday morning. She's already assigned you to the new medical complex. We're building downtown. I can't believe this is real, Claire said. 2 months ago I thought my career was over. Now I'm designing one of the biggest medical buildings in the state. Your career was never over, Andrew said. You just needed someone to look past the surface and see your talent. You did more than that, Claire said softly. You gave me back my confidence, my sense of worth. You reminded me that I'm still here, that I still have value. You always had value, Andrew corrected gently. We just helped you remember it. As spring turned to summer, their friendship deepened. Claire joined them for trips to the bookstore, for movies, for weekend adventures that Grace planned with increasing enthusiasm. Andrew found himself looking forward to Saturdays, with an anticipation that had nothing to do with coffee, and everything to do with the woman in the red dress, who'd taught him that courage comes in many forms. One Saturday in late July, Claire arrived at the coffee shop without her crutches for the first time. She walked with a cane instead, moving with careful confidence. Grace noticed immediately. You did it! You're walking! I am, Claire said, smiling broadly. Physical therapy finally paid off. I still need the cane for balance, but the crutches are gone. That's wonderful, Andrew said, and meant it. He'd watched her work toward this goal for months, had heard about the painful therapy sessions, the frustrating setbacks, the determination that kept her going. I couldn't have done it without you two, Claire said, settling into her usual chair. Knowing I had something to look forward to every Saturday, knowing I had people who believed in me, it made the hard days bearable. We're proud of you, Andrew said. Daddy, Grace said suddenly, with the bluntness of children who see truths adults try to ignore. You like Claire, really like her. The way you liked Mommy. Andrew felt his face heat. Claire looked equally flustered. Grace, that's not, Andrew started. It's okay, Grace interrupted. Mommy told me before she died that you'd find someone else someday. She said she wanted you to be happy, that I should be happy for you. And I am. I think Mommy would like Claire too. Andrew looked at his daughter, this wise little person who saw so clearly. Then he looked at Claire, who was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. I do like Claire, he admitted. Very much. But I didn't want to presume. I didn't want her to think. I'd only helped her because I wanted something from her. Did you? Claire asked quietly. Wah.